Welcome to the UDC V8 Utes. Great to have you along. It's great to be back after the halftime break. Well, to beat them all, it's been 5 months since these trucks have been driven in anger, and these lads are rearing to go. They're also rearing to catch Chris the Killer Walton, the runaway leader of the championship. And if we look at the table, you can see just how well he's gone in the first 3 rounds of the season. 104 points ahead of Peter Ward Chaos, one of a trio of Holdens chasing the Killer, with Jeff Spencer sharing 3rd place with Brett Rudd. 5th place, Buzz Lightfoot had a good run here in Taupo last year, while UDC Ute rookie Sam Barry sits in 6th. But the man to watch could be the 15th place. No, I'm not kidding. James Urquhart. Huggy might have been a rolling wreckers yard in the first half of the season, but as a result, his tally is pretty bad. In fact, you could say it's a bit like David Cunliffe's. Well, as for the Killer, well, his tally's a bit like another politician, and he knows he is the man to beat, and he quite likes it.
Well, we've been having a great run here all year, you know, so we've turned up for qualifying this morning, put it on one again, so the car's been prepped well for the off-season. Yeah, we're ready to go for race 1.
You're not doing anything to make them like you, are you?
No, I mean, I'm going to go at the end of the year. They don't need to like me. But no, it's great fun. They're a great group of guys, you know, so it's good fun to come over here and have a chat and catch up with them all, and obviously to do well on the track at the same time.
Yeah, well, the Killer seems to accept he might not win a whole lot of friends, but he's definitely winning admirers the way he's performed in the first 3 rounds. Although one bloke who's not his biggest fan is the guy who's chasing him the hardest, Peter Ward, the man they call Chaos.
Yeah, there's a bit of distance out there, so yeah, we'll have to get pretty lucky to catch up with him.
That doesn't sound like you saying you need luck. You've had 5 months to think about this. You must have been able to pinpoint what it takes to knock him over.
Yeah, he'll still need to have a whole lot of bad luck, and I've got to get out there and get a pedal on.
I can't believe this. This is the guy that likes a fight. Are you saying you've just got to wait for him to fall over?
No, we're still going to go out there fighting, but yeah, he's a good peddler. He's doing a lot of driving, and yeah, we've had a 5-month hiatus, so that's probably not so good for us.
I tell you what, I haven't. Normally the excuses come after the race. What I've got to know though is, I know in the Utes they like you to drive angry. Will you turn to that?
We'll try to drive angry, but we need to drive pretty carefully around here, because I don't think anger does, buddy Taupo. Maybe Pukekohe.
You know, that is something about a 5-month halftime break. Look at this. Mike Lightfoot's truck is in perfect condition, not a scratch panel on it. Trust me, it didn't look like this in the first half of the season. There's some newcomers. A couple more Aussies have joined the series. One of them, a young lad called Mason Barbera. Now, he hasn't driven a full-size car before, and he's already stunned. 3rd fastest in qualifying. This kid is something special.
Yeah, this is the first time ever driving a race car or anything like that. Just kind of, I don't know, just get out there and drive it, and just drive it to the best of my ability, and yeah, it happened.
Now, obviously, that's qualifying. Racing in these things is a completely different kettle of fish. Do you like rubbing?
Yeah, Robin's racing, I guess. You know, that's the way it goes. And, yeah, it's just a massive learning curve this weekend, and see how we go. Yeah.
Now, while we're talking about the Aussie sensation, I should bring you back to one important thing here, and that is Buzz Lightfoot. Tough time first half of the season. He has qualified 4th just behind Mason Barbera. He is out to turn things around. Let's check out the action. Race 1, the UDC V8 Utes.
Race 1 for the UDC V8 Utes sees Peter Chaos Ward on pole position, alongside him Chris Walton. Row number 2, it's Peter Rocketman Rob and Mike Lightfoot. Row number 3, Sam Barry. And row number 4, Mason Barbera from Australia and Glenn Collinson. Row number 5, James Urquhart and Jeff Spencer. And bringing up the rear, Brett Rudd from Auckland. 3 Australians in the field, the rest of them are New Zealanders. I'm joined in commentary by Mark Pedersen, and this is going to be something special, Morky, because we've got a youngster from Australia, absolutely set the field alight. Barbera, 3rd quickest in the qualifying.
Yeah, and of course, it's actually his first ever race meeting as well. But here we go, the race is underway. Oh, the Ward car's actually he's retired already. He hasn't got very far, has he?
Well, it just goes from bad to worse for poor old Chaos, but it's the championship leader going into turn 1 in first place. You're on board the back of his car here. You're looking out at Mike Lightfoot, slots up into 2nd place. There was a bit of argy-bargy out of there, I'm sure of it.
Right in the middle, there's one car completely sideways. Another one, here we go.
One of the Australians. Well, welcome to racing in New Zealand.
Phil, just after that, there was a huge crash. One of the, I think it was the Ward car that was coming from the back of the field.
That is ballistic.
Right,
that's Chris Berry that's borne the brunt of that one. Meantime, the racing continues. This is the Jackson Enterprises Ute of Jeff SOS Spencer. Meantime, out in front. He's done this so many times in New Zealand, Mork. This is the Killer. This is Walton. The multi-spares forward already starting to get away. But I think I talked to Mike Lightfoot before this race, and he's got the bit between the teeth. Here's the replay Well, it was a don't argue one, that New Zealand versus Australia right there in the first turn. I think Jeff Spence might have been the guilty party. We'll have a look at that from a different angle. Yeah, well, it was an ambitious pass to say the least. I think you'd know more about that than I would.
We're just hearing that this race has actually gone red, so there's going to be a complete restart. Wow, look, there's a lot of damage, eh?
Well, welcome to New Zealand, Chris Berry. Ballistic, they call him, and Peter Ward. That happened right at the very start. He got what? He didn't get 100 feet.
No, but I think that was interesting is he dropped back and then he accelerated straight away off the back of the field. So, you know, whatever happened, and then, of course, he's just an innocent victim there, but just shows that when you tear the whole left front suspension out of a ute, it must be a big hit.
And you can see from the body language, not happy at all, and plenty of wreckage on the racetrack, so the crash crew go to their work as this one's been red flagged. Race number 1 of the UDC V8 Utes. While they're racing, they got it cleaned up pretty quickly, and it's status quo at the front of the field because it's the killer, Walton, in the lead. Peter Robbs moved up into second place, and then it's Mike Lightfoot. Well, they've made it past turn 2, Morg.
Early days, Phil. Let's see the exit of turn 2. Yeah, no, now into turn 3. So they're going to hopefully settle themselves down, but we kind of thought that in one of the restart, didn't they? And it didn't go the way we planned. Oh, here we go.
There's some contact again, and that's the Scud, Brett Rudd, and Huggy Urquhart getting together here. And the young kid from Australia, Mason Barbera, who was a bit of a sensation, qualified third quickest. He's gone round as well. And you mentioned before, this is his first time in a full-size race car. Yeah,
look, this guy, he's only 16 years old, I believe, coming from a karting background, and they're kind of already setting the sky for big accolades in Australia. The really big future. Imagine 16, here we go. But these guys, rubbing is racing all the way through the Ute Championship. Oh, that's a high-speed corner to be rubbing.
Sam Barry just getting the better of Mike Buzz Lightfoot there. Sam Barry's been competing recently in Australia. Did a round of the Australian V8 Utes at Sandown. Said he learnt a lot. His first full season in the UDC V8 Utes. Comes out of Suzuki Swift Racing. That'll be a steep learning curve.
You're talking cheese, really, isn't it?
Here's a replay of the action further down through the field. The 99 just gets a little bit sideways, and Huggy Urquhart just drives into the side of him. But really, you've got to put the blame there, possibly on the young kid. Let's have a look from on board here with James Urquhart. Up ahead of them is Mason Barbera. There is the rub coming in from Brett the Scud Rudd in the Pellet Supplies Holden. Looking at the back of the Mitre 10 Ute now, it's in the gravel. Meantime, Chris Killer Walton continues on his winning way. 401 is his points total as we resume the UDC V8 Utes Championship after a 4-month break. It's breaking out behind him once again. Peter Rocketman Robb, there he is, Ute number 68. They say that he is the hardest man in the world to get past.
Anybody can make a car as wide as they can, and all you got to do, Phil, is come into a corner. You've only got to slow the guy down just enough so you're on the throttle application first, and it can make your car so wide. But how good is Chris? He's methodical and clinical in everything he does.
Oh, you just get the feeling that this is going to be ugly very shortly.
Can't say the same for these guys, can we? Bump and run, and this is not over.
Glenn Collinson goes up the inside, and they both disappear in a cloud of dust, and round we go. And that's Peter Rocketman Robb at the last full round of the championship. He had his first win in the series, and he's one of the originals. I'm not too sure. I've lost count of how many years the UDC V8 Utes have been going, but Peter Rocketman had never had a win. He got that at Pukekohe. Not going to get it here in race 1 at Taupo.
No, not those kind of antics. Gosh, these guys are certainly rubbing each other, and for old Ross Thurston, he's going to be a busy man, isn't he, trying to call who's right and who's wrong.
Well, poor old Ross, he's got a bank of monitors up there in the race control. He's going to be working overtime with this lot.
Remember, in the background, that's actually the smoke from the burnout that we just saw with the recovering car.
Down up to the top end of the circuit they come now. This is Jeff Spence, the Jackson Enterprises Ute. Right in behind him, Mike Buzz Lightfoot. Here's a replay of the action further on. We said it was going to get ugly. It certainly did. Glenn Collinson in the Better Spares car just gives a bit of a love tap here to Peter Rocketman Robb. Round we go.
Yeah, he just came out of the corner with a bit too much throttle and got sideways, and unfortunately it was just a bit of a slam dump right there. I don't think there was anything sinister in it. It's just a result of ute racing.
The damage surveying goes on in the pits. Just look at the damage on the Ward Demolition Holden.
That's a big hit just to tear that whole left front suspension out of it. It's taken the brake caliper, everything with it. So, yeah, those boys are going to be in for a pretty late night, unfortunately.
Yeah, the SRT boys have got their work cut out for them in this one. The resumption of the UDC V8 Utes here at the Rush Security Taupo 400. You're watching Jeff, SOS Spence, and a fast recovering, you'd have to say, Brett the Scud Rudd. He was involved in that altercation a couple of laps ago. He's right back into it. You see the Pellet Supplies Ute certainly bearing the scars.
Yeah, the Pellet Supplies car is actually doing it a lot easier in terms of racing line and everything. But of course, what happens here is you tuck that close underneath the car in front, you do miss your apex. Everything gets hot. There's not a great deal of cooling going to these cars anyway. But here we go. He's died down the inside. Bit of a dummy, much like myself. Nothing come of it.
This battle on your screen for 5th and 6th place, Jeff, SOS. Silly old speech, they say the SOS stands for, or maybe it might be Save Our Souls, the Jackson Enterprises truck, and right in behind him, Brett the Scud Rudd. Now, these two were locked in third equal in the points, in the championship points, so that might change by the end of the weekend here in Taupo.
Yeah, I think this is going to end in tears myself, Phil, actually. He's just got that feeling about it, as has missed about every other lap of these guys so far, but it's interesting, when you see the driver, when you see the visor going from left and right, all he's doing is driving in the mirror.
Expert comments from...
Oh, you've done it plenty of times yourself, trust me.
All about it, yeah, I was going to say. Bit of mirror driving in your career, Morky.
Yeah, before I had so much hidden talent, I only found around 2% of it, so here's a lot went by the wayside.
The scrap continues as we go back to the pits, and that's where the action is at the moment. This is Chris Berry's truck, or what's left of it, the Falcon. We'll talk about competitive. You don't want to get too much closer. I would suggest Brett Rudd.
Just going to run down the inside here, Phil.
The pit straight once again.
And into the outside, and then look for the crossover on the way out of the corner.
Jeff Spence, one of the originals of the V8 Utes here in New Zealand, started off with through the brainchild of Ash Cairns. You may remember years and years ago we had a Trans-Tasman battle. That was the seed planting, if you like, and then everyone jumped on board. And here we are, racing in 2014, the resumption of their season. They've had a 4-month break, so all these guys a bit angsty to get behind the wheel and strut their stuff.
Yeah, there's obviously a fair respect between Jeff and Brett here, because there's been a lot of close racing, but very little rubbing. And as we know, the Utes are very well renowned for the rubbings racing antics, so this race, or this battle here is going to continue. But look, the fastest man on the screen at the moment is Chris Walton, which is no surprise, but Sam Barry in second is actually only 0.2 of a second away, so that whole battle, second and third, is now starting to heat up.
Well, we're about 3/4 distance in this 8-lap race. It's Chris Walton out in front. It's Sam Barry and Glenn Collison, as you heard Mork say, second and third. Then it's Lightfoot, Spencer, Rudd, Barbera from Australia, Peter Robb. And unfortunately, the rest of them are retirements. There was carnage in the early stages of the race. We had to restart it, and then there was carnage in the restart. There is Walton. He's the race leader. This is the battle we focus on. Second and third, past teammates. Now, bitter enemies out on the circuit together. Ford versus Ford, the Bell Group Ford. Sam Barry, right in behind him, Glenn Collinson in the better auto parts Ford.
Look, that's actually quite a neat strategy from Glenn Collinson there. You see they've got the automatic headlights flashing on. There's nothing worse than when you look in the mirror and you see the flashlights going. What it does, it momentarily takes your mind away from it. And he's having a run down the inside. Is he going to stick? Good move. Not unless he upbrakes himself. Nah, it was a clean move, wasn't it?
Yeah, brilliant pass through turn 1 for Glenn Collinson.
Is that an ex-police shoot, is it, with the flashing lights on it?
You'd think so.
Some of that or his right hand's really busy on the flashing part of the headlight, isn't it?
This is a good recovery from Mason Barbera. There he is, the PJ's Ford. First time in a full-size race car, first time racing the UDC V8 Utes. He's monstering one of the regulars, and that is the Holden of Jeff Spence. And the Scud, Brett Rudd, right there as well. Great delivery this season on the pellet supplies, Holden. I know they've wrapped it, they've used the new vinyl, got the NASCAR numbers on it. Looks a picture, the 99.
It does, and if Brent Rudd he was actually thinking about this, he'd let young Mason Barbera make the hole for him against Jeff Spence, and when that hole opens up, just put your nose right inside. So I don't think that's the strategy at the moment, because he's actually dropped back a little bit too far, but on paper it sounded good, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah,
great.
Sounded a ripper.
Fantastic. All of the Utes, I think, in this race bearing some battle scars. You saw the mirror hanging off Mason Barbera's Ute. A little bit of damage on Jeff Spence's Ute from the altercation early on. Probably the only clean one is the man out in front, and that's Walton.
Hey, isn't it true, though, if you come back with 2 mirrors on, you get fined?
Playing by your rules now, Mork.
Yeah.
Out of the big sweeper at the top end of the circuit they come. The lap's winding down here as the race leader comes onto the pit straight once more to start lap number 8. Chris Killer Walton. He came in with a 401 point total. Second was Peter Chaos Ward. He went out early, so he won't improve his total at all. He's second on 297. And then it's a tie for third place between Jeff Spence and Brett the Scud Rudd. And we've seen those two being very gentlemanly.
Very gentlemanly, yes. Yeah, that doesn't really go well, that phase in the Ute racing, doesn't it? Because that's one thing about these guys, they muscle these big heavy Utes around, don't they? And part of the consequence every now and then is a little bit of rubbing. But look at the apex, and it's poetry in motion watching Chris go around. He's hitting the curbs without abusing them. Like there's no smoke, not locking in any of the wheels, just kissing the apex, nice clean throttle application. And we saw from the in-car camera before, he's just doing it with ease, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's got a good advantage, and he's probably under very little pressure at all. He's a little bit like you, Mork. He's come through karting. He was very good in karting. He was a Queensland Sprint Kart champion. He's raced V8 Supercars in the development series. He's raced Commodore Cup in Australia, but he's found his home here in New Zealand and in Australia in the UDC V8 Utes. You're looking at the style of a champion as he completes his last lap here at Taupo. It is the Rush Security Taupo 400. This is part of the support package, if you like, through the Hancock turn. Once again he comes, not even challenged.
It's been very methodical, I should say. Race by Chris, and of course helped at the very first part of it when the pole man bailed off. But look, I don't even think he was going to be unhindered, even if he didn't get the jump at the start, because it was only a matter of time before he took over his rightful place at the front.
Well, you can do what you like with parity, but when you've got a driver the quality of this man behind the wheel, there's not anything you can do about it. Onto the pit straight, checkered flag comes out. Chris Killer Walton wins it. Well, it was one-way traffic, wasn't it? Chris Walton getting the win from Glenn Collinson in second place, Sam Barry in third, Mike Lightfoot in fourth place. Then it was Jeff Spencer. Mason Barbera from Australia was sixth. Seventh was Brett Rudd. In eighth, it was Peter Rocketman Robb. He was a DNF. So was James Urquhart, and so was Peter Ward.
Chris, congratulations, but that did look relatively easy.
Yeah, I mean, the first start we got off the line in the front and we had the cars close to us, but it lasted like half a lap before there was a crash. So the second restart, I don't know what happened to the guys behind, but I got out of turn 2 and there was no one there and I just had a big break. So we just pretty much cruised around for the whole race and they just all fought behind me. So, yeah, it was easy. We looked after the car, so we've got a good car, good tyres for race 2 to start from 10 now. So, yeah, see how we go tomorrow.
Chris, there's a fair bit of frantic work going on behind us. Do you want to work us through how all that come about?
Oh, mate, look, we turned in there, got a good start, got a great start, got up to third or fourth, and thought we were away, turned it in up there, got turned around, and just watching cars coming at me. So last thing I saw was Wardy go by me over the front, and I was looking at his exhaust pipes as he went past, so he was well in the air.
I've never been such a relaxed person considering how much damage. It's just brilliant.
Oh, mate, we play on. It's ute racing. That's how we do it.
Welcome back to the UDC V8 Utes here in Taupo. As you can see, it's raining, which could mean chaos on the track for race 2. And speaking of chaos, look at this. The ute is back and ready to race. It's all thanks to this man and his team, Jake Stoneman. How the hell did you turn this machine around?
Well, it wasn't that easy, but we've got a real good crew and real good parts itinerary, and we've done a lot on these now, so we know exactly what we need to do every time this sort of stuff happens.
Now, this sort of bing with a wheel off would take a couple of weeks in a panel beat. It's 2.5 hours you've turned this around. Yeah,
that's right. Like I say, the boys are all pretty good, and we've got a fair bit of heart in the team as well, so we like to get stuck into it.
And I will say one thing they don't have is a spare guard. You brought, I understand, 2 right-hand front guards, but you didn't bring a left hand.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know how that happened. We seem to miss that one.
The question is, I know Pete's been in trouble in Taupo here before on the track. How's he going to go now? Will he slow down? Will he be more careful? Or will he be angry?
Well, I doubt he'll be angry, but I don't think he'll slow down either. He's off the back of the grid, and I'm pretty sure he's done the rain dance to bring this on, so because he loves the rain.
Yeah, so basically, chaos wants chaos. This is race 2, the UDC V8 Utes.
Race 2 for the UDC V8 Utes, and the grids looks like this. Brett Rudd and Jeff Spencer off row number 1. James Huggy Urquhart, Glenn Collinson in row 2. Mason Barbera out of Australia and Chris Berry in row 3. In row 4, it's Sam Barry and Mike Lightfoot. Row 5, Peter Robb and Chris Walton. And in row 6, it is Peter Ward. So the pellet supplies ute of Brett the Scud Rudd on pole position alongside him. SOS Spence, Jeff Spencer, away they go. Good start from Rudd. Good start already from Walton. You see him just crab down to the side of the middle of the track, I should say. And I think there's been a little bit of contact with Walton and Mike Lightfoot as they head their way into turn number 1. Glenn Collison just tapping on the rear of Jeff Spencer's ute, trying to make his position felt there, but it's the Scud, and he's a bit of a demon in the wet, is Brett Rudd. Oh, and there's problems there, and it's Lightfoot that's gone round. Well, he had some help, there's no doubt about it. There's big damage on the precision components forward once again. The racing continues, though. Look at the swapping for positions back there. Number 17, that is Glenn Collinson, the better auto parts Ute starting to feel the wrath of Chris Walton. Remember, Walton is the class of the fielder he was yesterday. He's got a healthy lead in the point situation. He knows what it takes to get from the back to the front. You've got to salute the guy's driving, Mark. He's done an amazing job while he's been here in New Zealand.
Well, he has too, and I dare say it's probably the first time he's actually driven around this track in these kind of conditions. So he has got so much confidence in that Ute of his, obviously racing here in Australia, that, like we said, it was just a matter of time. Sabra has plucked off 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5 cars, and I don't think anything's going to stop him from his march to the front.
Well, that's right. He's come virtually from the back of the field, and he's just about there. You're on board looking out the back window of James Huggy Urquhart's Mitre 10 Trade Ute, and right in behind him, in fact beside him now, is the multi-spares Ford, and that is Chris Walton. Two of the old stages get together. Peter Ward, Peter Chaos Ward, and Rocket Man Rob working their way out of the big sweeper at the top end of the circuit, the Fuchs corner. This is the action from the early stages of the race. Contact there with Peter Ward and Mike Lightfoot, and just a gentle tap there for Mason Barbera out of Australia as well.
We try to explain, we fall 3 into 1 never works, does it? So, look, boys, you probably need to listen to what we've got to say here. But either way, that car on screen there, the Wood Demolition, of course, that had that huge wreck in race 1. So he hasn't had a chance to do any familiarisation or characterisation laps in that Ute after that, have tearing the suspension out. So he's actually been a bit of a pioneer to find out how well the boys have set their car up after that big crash.
Well, we talked to Jake Stoneman just before this race started, and tore not only the front suspension but the rear suspension as well. Knocked the diff wall out of alignment, bent probably the rear chassis rails, he said. They worked long into the night to get Chaos back and going. On board here from Chris Walton, looking up the back of his Ute, looking towards Jeff Spencer, another one of the originals, Jackson Enterprises Holden. So Walton doing the job. Just listen to the engine note. They're a little bit judicious on the throttle, aren't they? It's pretty slippery out there.
Yeah, I was just listening to that with a great deal of interest. He's not been aggressive on the throttle. You know, if he goes through 1 corner in 2nd gear in the dry, he's using 3rd gear now just to get rid of all the torque in the engine, and he's just driving with so much confidence, so much maturity, that there's going to be no one that can touch him in this field.
This battle for 5th, 6th and 7th, looking out the back window of James Huggy Urquhart, looking at Glenn Collinson, by the look of it. Sam Barry not too far away, Peter Ward in there as well. Remember, these Utes run on Yokohama control tyres. They don't, as such, have a wet tyre, so it's an all-purpose tyre. This is the pass for the lead. Walton's going to gather up all the courage and go around the outside, if he can, of the Scud. He's not going to be able to do it, surely.
No, he's going to do the crossover here. He's going to go right down the inside to the left of the screen right now. He's got superior drive. Execution, how's that from the back of the field to the front? Was it 1 3/4 laps?
Exactly. And what about the prediction from Mark Pedersen? You should drive these things, mate.
Well, look, yeah, I've got a lot of money in my pocket, so I just wanted to go to the TA big and put a bit on. So, but either way, look up to the right-hand side of the screen. You'll see that he's on the dirty line. He's on the rubber line. He's got to defend it. If he can defend it from here, which is exactly what he wants to do, he can just go back to driving his nice natural lines now. He's going to pull away here.
Well, 2 laps into the race, and the killer is in the front, just like we saw in race number 1. He had it easy in race number 1 because he started off the front row. This time he started off the very back. Brett the Scud Rudd chasing him hard. Oh, Sam Barry getting a little bit sideways there, coming up onto Jeff Spencer. That's a battle for 3rd and 4th for the moment. This is Mike Lightfoot.
Yeah, they just changed over the left rear wheel. That's, of course, it was involved in that damage at turn 1 there, so there's a bit of a precautionary measure.
It's a 3-way battle involving all the Kiwis, some of the stalwarts of the class. Peter Ward's decided it's time to go. He wants to move down on the inside as they come back into turn 1 here. But Taupo decides can't get it done this time round. Still got laps to do it. Collison making that better auto parts forward just as wide as possible. So we've got the traditional Holden Ford battle here in the UTC V8 Utes that the crowd seems to love. We've got the biff and bash. It's a perfect combination, really, Mark.
It's what everybody comes to see, isn't it? Good old hard racing, a bit of rubbing in between, and then every now and then a slightly larger wreck to mix a bit. Or he's going to have a crack down the inside. Nothing comes up. Look, he's going to give him the old Liberace. Just let him know he's still there, as if he doesn't need to be reminded. That's for sure.
Well, he's probably close enough that he probably can't see him in his mirror.
Yeah, throw a little bit of haze into the mirror, but. Look, Wardy's get a bit of confidence back in this Ute now of his, especially after the race 1 incident, and he's just going to keep mothering the back of that better car until, or in the hope that he makes a bit of a mistake and he can have a good, honest crack with it.
Well, while we've been watching this, Chris Walton's just put the foot down and said, see you later. He's got a huge advantage now, 2.5 seconds now over, make it 7 seconds over Brett the Scud Rudd. Jeff Spencer a further 2 seconds behind Rudd. We go back to this battle, 5th, 6th and 7th. because you just get the feeling it's hotting up and something's going to kick off pretty shortly as the laps wind down here at Taupo.
Look, it's starting to get a bit of a dry line, and as strange as that may sound to the people watching this, you can actually see where the cars go down the straights. There's two distinctive darker lines where you know, these Yokohamas are starting to pump all the water out. So what they've got to do now is, if they're going to make a pass for, they've got to go onto the dirty line, which is a bit slipperier. So anything at this point is going to be in sheer desperation.
Well, we've got the best seat in the house to watch it. You're watching race number 2 of the UDC V8 Utes, coming to you from the Rush Security Taupo 400, part of the support package for the New Zealand Super Tourers. And this battle, 5th, 6th and 7th, has been like this for just about the majority of the race. You mentioned that the confidence is up now with Wardy. Just lost a little bit of contact coming out onto the pit straight that time, and he's not close enough to make the pass on Collinson. You go back on board here with Urquhart. He's watching all this unfold behind him.
Yeah, Huggy Urquhart, he's got to put his ears back here, because look, these two guys are battling each other, and if he looks in the mirror and has a bit of a look at what's going on, he's going to take speed out of his Mitre 10 trained racing ute there. So he's just got to keep forging ahead, saying, look, let these boys battle each other and take the speed out. But the pressure's on. Look, Wardy, you want to stay off that curb on the right-hand side. Let me tell you a bit of a secret there. Stay off it.
A bit of a gentle love tap for the Ford of Glenn Collinson from Peter Ward. Ward Demolition Middleman Holden.
See, the other thing too which you've got to take into calculation here is what the boys have done with the tyre pressures. Because it's wet, they probably started a little bit higher to generate a little bit of temperature in the tyre to begin with. But now it's dried off. Some of those guys that started high pressures, it might be overcooking the tyre, or the tyre's got too hot. And maybe that's what we're seeing now.
The question I've got for you, Mark Peterson, is how long before the patience runs out on Chaos?
Can I tell you in 2 laps? Because I don't think it's going to be long at all.
Expert comments coming from a man that's been there and done that, Mark Peterson, as we watch a big lunge coming up into the sweeper here from Glenn Collinson. He's decided the better part of discretion is valor, so he's going to try and attack Jeff Spencer here. Should I say James Urquhart here.
He's got to run down the inside, and if he can just stay there long enough, the corner will actually open up for him here, but no, I think he's backed out of this. Oh, Wardy just wants to be another couple of ute, but you know, ute lengths a bit closer, doesn't he? So if these guys do happen to have a bit of a wreck or go into rubbing racing a bit further,
oh, it's a big dive coming into the chase from Collinson. Gee, he's got the bravery pills in today.
I've never ever seen that actually even try to be attempted, let alone executed. Right here, this is the part they've got to be careful of, because the simple reason being is that there's so many white lines coming on there that you give these utes a bit of throttle and you hit a white line at the same time, all they want to do is turn you around and wheel spin. Oh, he's off!
Oh, Huggy, you put the kiss of death on Huggy. He's gone off in turn number 1. Puts it into the gravel, the Mitre 10 trained racing Holden. He's back on the racetrack, but all his good work undone in the blink of an eye.
Look, yeah, it's just that, probably that little bit too much pressure from the boys behind, a little bit just beyond his braking distance, and here we go.
Have a look on the replay. Just locks it up. It just sledges off the track, doesn't it?
And it goes. And of course, in these conditions, you know, there's nothing you can do except wait until it stops, get back on the track, and carry on.
And was that as a result of pressure? Looking at the onboard shot here.
Oh, look, a little bit of everything. He probably just missed his braking marker by a metre or 2. That's all it takes in these kind of conditions. And you know, if you look in the rear vision mirror as you go into the braking zone, find out where the other guys are. It does take your concentration away a little bit.
Well, you know, we talked about the bad luck that Peter Ward had in race number 1. Poor old James Huggy Urquhart's had bad luck all season. He scored very few points in the championship, because the championship resumes here for the UDC V8 Utes after a 4-month layoff. And that's good news for Chris Killer Walton. Remember, he's out in the front here. We're just watching these little battle groups, 2nd and 3rd and 3rd and 4th now, with the small mistake there for James Huggy Urquhart. Just up ahead of Glenn Collinson is Jeff Spencer and also Sam Barry. This is the race leader, though, just going about his business. Just looks so relaxed in the cockpit behind the wheel.
Yeah, there's no urgency in anything Chris is doing, and the reason for that is that he's just got so much speed of that multi-spares ute that he doesn't have to do anything desperate to make the speed out of it.
Well, he's been there before, hasn't he? He made his New Zealand debut here at Taupo, but it was in slightly different conditions. He won race 1 going away, and he's going to win race 2 in the same fashion. And this time, remember, he started from the very back of the grid. It's been a masterful display once again for the likeable Aussie. He'll extend his points lead. This one's going to go down to the wire, I think. This is 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, all on your screen at the same time. Jeff SOS Spencer's held on to 2nd place for a long, long time now. But, sorry, should I say 3rd place now? But I don't know if he's going to get it right through to the end, because Sam Barry's looking pretty racy there in that Bell Group Ford.
Yeah, and so are the other two utes behind him as well. And of course, if he's patient here and he steps back, brilliant stuff.
Patience, did you say?
Yes, what was I thinking? Okay, now that's opened the door. Wardy in the background. No, guys, 3 into 1 we know don't work.
It's the sprint car racing, backing it in stuff into the turns. Just a gentle tap there from Glenn Collinson. He gets a little bit sideways. Jackson Enterprises Ute Spence caught up in this. Peter Ward looking to regroup as well. Remember, these guys are racing to the checkered flag. It's all about championship points. Okay, Chris Walton's going to take the major slice of those because he's going to make it 2 for 2 in the UDC V8 Utes. But what is going to happen here? Who have you got your money on, Mork? How's this one going to play out?
Give me 3 quarters. I actually don't know. I think Collinson's actually going to have a crack. He's going to drop back. That's the second Ute in particular here. He's going to drop right back here. He's going to go up high, try to get the undercut. Wardy's in the background trying to cause a bit of mayhem as well.
Well, Sam Barry and Glenn Collinson were teammates in the Suzuki Swifts, but they're anything but here in the UDC V8 Utes. This is the man that's going to carry the show, though. This is Chris Killer Walton out of Queensland, Australia. The multi-spares Ford is going to make it 2 for 2 in the damp conditions here at Taupo. He wins it and wins it easily. So race number 2 results sees that Chris Walton makes it 2 for 2 here at Taupo. Brett the Scud Rudd is second from Sam Barry, Glenn Collinson, Jeff Spencer and Peter Ward. James Urquhart comes through in 7th place. In 8th it's Peter Rocketman Rob. In 9th Australia's Mason Barbera. And in 10th Mike Buzz Lightfoot.
Chris, I've seen some pretty neat things in my times racing and commentating, but I've never ever seen anybody go from the back of the field to the front of the field in a lap and a half in these kind of conditions, mate. Well done.
Yeah, it was good. It wasn't real good to wake up to the rain this morning, but we know we've got a good car in the wet too, so it makes it a bit easier. But no, everyone just drove to the inside of the track at turn 1. We just drove around the outside and picked up a few spots and did that for the first lap and a half, and seemed to work for us, so we just kept doing that and, yeah, just drove away in the end.
Third and final race for the UDC V8 Utes sees Chris Walton and Glenn Collinson on row number 1, Brett Rudd and Mike Lightfoot on 2, in row number 3 it's Sam Barry and Mason Barbera. Row number 4 Jeff Spencer and Peter Robb, and in row number 5 James Urquhart and Peter Ward. Row number 6 another Australian visitor, Chris Berry. So just about ready for a start here at Taupo. Blustery conditions, but thankfully dry for the moment. Alongside of Walton, it is Glenn Collinson. Away they go. Good ambitious start coming from the 99 there of Brett the Scud Rudd. The grid positions for this race decided by the points for the meeting. No doubt that's why Walton's out in the front already. The squeal of tyres, so it's on further down through the field. But this time everyone makes it safely through turn number 1, and Walton already started to get away. Collinson through in second, then it's Brett Rudd. A little bit of action further down through the field. Peter Ward, well, he's been in the action all weekend in the Ward Demolition Holden, looking slightly second hand, where the SRT boys have put it together over the last couple. And Mike Lightfoot already taking damage, and we put the commentator's curse on Woody again, because he's taken to the gravel again, Mark. He's had a shocker today. I tell you what, he likes his fishing. If he'd caught a fish with the luck he's had today, he'd throw the thing back.
Yeah, look, something actually happened to that car in turn 1, because it slowed down so much going through turn 2, and then of course right through here, it just went straight ahead. So it's really, really strange exactly what happened. But look, he's been in the wars all weekend, so like you said, he's probably glad to see the back of it.
The precision components ute, the Motor Mayhem ute there of Buzz Lightfoot. He's sporting a bit of damage as well, and now he's got a tiger on his tail in the form of Brett the Scud Rudd. Rudd and Jeff Spence were locked in 4th place, or should I say 3rd place equal in the championship standings going in here to Taupo. We resumed the championships after 4 months. Look at this, you want close quarters racing, you want rubbing, you got it all here in the UDC V8 Utes. Chris Walton, well, he's just slowly but surely just waltzing away from this field, but look at this battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Would you pick it? Mason Barbera, first time in the category here in New Zealand, just 16 years of age. He's in this fight as well, Mork.
Yeah, look, isn't he shown a great deal of maturity beyond his years already? And he's not afraid to mix it in, is he? Puts his nose in where it's not wanted, gets cut off, and just comes bouncing straight back again. And look, he's racing with guys in very esteemed company that have had a lot of mileage and a lot of race success under them.
So it's not often you say after the first lap that the field is intact, but it is at the moment. You see the damage on Lightfoot's ute there. You go back through the field, here's James Huggy Urquhart, he's been in amongst it as well. Chris Ballistic Berry out of Australia didn't get to start race number 2. The ute failed on the start line. Race number 1, he was involved in heavy contact. Welcome to New Zealand UDC V8 Ute Racing, Chris Berry. You're watching out the back window of James Huggy Urquhart's Mitre 10 Trade Holden. That is Berry behind him. Jeff Spencer just coming into the picture as well. Look at the way they're left and right, trying to find a way around Huggy, just not being able to do it at the moment. And the reason they're not being able to do it is because Peter Rocketman Rob, the Hill Country Helicopters Holden, they say he's got the reputation of the hardest man to pass in the UDC V8 Utes. That's why Urquhart was welting all over the place trying to find a way through, and that's why Berry couldn't make the pass stick.
Yeah, you're right, but he does. He controls the speed going into the corner, and he also controls the speed going out, and he knows the guys behind him are going to be pretty desperate to have a bit of a crack down the inside. And geez, they would just say, look, that's the difference when someone gets it slightly wrong, how much they lose car speed coming out of it. But look, Urky's going to have a look down the outside, look for the crossover. Is he going to go all the way around the outside and make a big liar of me? Going to give it a crack?
Well, he's going to try to, isn't he? What he's going to do, he's going to open the door here for GFSOS Spence, the silly old Spence, they call him. Is he going to move up the inside of the Mitre 10 trade?
Mr. Gear.
Have a look. Oh, he has. And look down the left-hand side of the ute. Away goes Spence, one of the originals in the UDC V8 utes. There's the Australian as well. Shaking his head, Huggy, he can't believe what's going on here.
You can actually hear him screaming to himself inside the car.
He's gone from hero to zero and not quite getting the gear selected too well. There he is, another one of the originals in the UDC V8 utes. The Mitre 10 trade car of James Huggy Urquhart.
Oh, here we go.
Very
wide.
Has gone a little bit wide coming out of one. That's allowed Buzz Lightfoot to go through. At the moment, Walton, as he's done in all the races, just probably watching this in the mirrors, but he's getting away from them. He's already got nearly a 3-second advantage out in the front of the field. He's watching all this mayhem unfolding behind him. PJ's panel and paint car of Mason Barbera, having his first go in a full-size racing machine, comes from karting in Australia. The good news is he's going to do the whole season here of UDC V8 utes. In fact, all the Aussies in the field are going to do it. Chris Ballistic Berry, he's confirmed for this season and next year, so they've made a long-term commitment to the utes. And Chris Walton, why wouldn't he do it? He's walking away with the championship like he's walking away with this race.
Well, I can't emphasise that car on screen there, car number 6, Mason Barbera. Just how good a job this young fella's doing it. He's turned up for the first time racing anything at all, other than a go-kart. He's jumped into a ute with such esteemed company that he's got there on Taupo, which is probably one of the most technical tracks in Australasia, certainly New Zealand, and he's just mixing it in there.
Well, speaking about mixing it, we're back on board here with Huggy Urquhart. It's Peter Rocketman Rob and Chris Berry. Oh, a little bit of a touch there, a little bit of a Liberace as they come out of the sweeper and down the front straight once again.
This battle's going to go to the wire, there's no doubt about it. It's just got that horrible feeling about it, isn't it, that it might come unstuck at some stage.
This battle on screen at the moment, the battle for 3rd and 4th, Mason Barbera and the PJ's number 6 Ford. Right in behind him, Buzz Lightfoot. Told me he was looking forward to the resumption of racing. It's been 4 months since these guys faced a starter in anger. Last event for them was V8 Supercars at Pukekohe Park Raceway, so he was really excited to come here to Taupo, but I would think if you interviewed him after the race, he probably could have left this one alone. It's been trouble for some of the usual front runners.
Look, even watching the Mason Barbera car just there, he went into turn 1 a bit hot, locked the front wheel, but just the way he managed to pull it back, he didn't panic, he didn't do anything silly, didn't actually run off into the kitty litter, as they call it, or the brown marble stuff we see in the background there, which is designed to slow the cars down. So just kept harping on. The 16-year-old kid, man, he's got one heck of a future, that's for sure.
Well, I know, talking with Chris Killer Walton and also with Chris Berry, the other 2 Australians, and also with Paul Isaac, the category manager of the team, he's got big raps on this kid in Australia. He's going to be a star of the future, as he said, just 16 years of age.
And we got to call his first ever proper race, didn't we?
We did, no doubt about it. This battle here between a couple of the old stages, Peter Rocketman Rob and James Huggy Urquhart. Just in front of them, another one of the old stages, and that is Jeff SOS Spence. Back on board here with Huggy. Look at the way he's soaring at the wheel. Through the big sweeper, through the Fuchs turn, now onto the big front straight here at Taupo once again. Remember, Chris Killer Walton out in the front, Glenn Collinson in 2nd, Mason Barbera in 3rd. This is the battle we concentrate on, though. This is further down through the field. This is 6th, 7th and 8th. Jeff Spencer, Peter Rocketman Rob, and you're on board here with James Huggy Urquhart back in 8th position. Huggy getting a little bit closer to Rocketman, just giving a little bit of a tap as he works his way through the B&T chase.
He's actually got a run on him here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the left and right of the screen right now. And has a crack into the turn 1. Just a little bit. Oh, look at the car control there, left front locking up. Aren't we seeing that more and more often? We've seen it in the Mason Barbera car a couple of times already. One of the other utes as well. So, look, maybe it's just a little bit greasy offline and it's just catching these guys out.
Well, they're big trucks, aren't they? They weigh, minimum weight is 1825 kg, run all about 400 odd horsepower, but they have got a very good braking package on them.
Oh, it's magnificent brakes, and also the magnificent tyre that's on it. There we go. See, it's the other front tyre this time. So, look, you can't help but think he's just got to take a little bit more speed out of the car going into the corner and try to set himself up, because it's all very well monstering the car under braking, but because you get on the throttle application 5-6 metres slower than the other guy, he's always going to jump. So the braking zone is a diminishing zone, the acceleration is an extended zone. So that's what you've got to keep working on.
Expert comments coming from Mark Peterson, a man that has been there and done that, not in one of these, but I bet you'd love to have a drive one of these, Mark.
I actually have had a drive in one of these at Hampton Downs. Actually, it was a Mike Pero ute, and I must say I had to take off and take my hat off to Mike Pero, because man, they were hard work. Any of these guys that are driving these these utes do a fantastic job.
Yeah, well, everyone that's sort of crossed over from saloon car racing, for want of a better word, into these said is exactly the same words. They're very, very hard to drive. They're not like you expect them to be.
No, look, I jumped in Hampton Downs, you know, and I absolutely rated myself. I went in with a big fat head, which I've normally got, and Mike said, you know, when you come over the top of the hill, Mark, you brake at 200 metres, and I said, well, I'm Mark Peterson, I'll stop at 199. Mike was right, I was 100% wrong, and I just about ended up where the prison was. So, yeah, I ran out of talent, and I should have listened to what he had to say, because he was certainly a wise man.
Through the chase they go once again. Brilliant comments from Mark Peterson about the vagaries and the abilities various of the ute drivers. UDC V8 utes, it's their third and final race of the weekend. Chris Walton out in the front, Glenn Collinson in second place. Then it is Mike Lightfoot now by the look of it. James Huggy Urquhart's in the wars again, and that's allowed Peter Rocketman Rob to run a bit wide, and that's allowed the Aussie to go through at the inside. I think Chris Ballistic
not quite.
Hasn't quite got there yet.
Oh, this is going to be ugly.
Side by side, mirror to mirror. Where are we going to go? Huggy's made a mistake of it. He's lost 2 spots here because Rocketman Rob's gone up ahead of him as well. You're on board here with Huggy.
Yeah, look, Huggy can't be too concerned about the rubbing racing, because he was kind of the instigator coming out of turn 1. Actually, it started going into turn 1. He went in a bit hot, and everybody had the presence of mind to give him a bit of racing room. And then he was still trying to regather it through the exit of turn 1 into 2 and then 3.
He still is. You've got to give him A for effort, because, man, he is trying hard, trying to get around his good mate off the circuit, and that is Peter Rocketman Rob. These two, some of the old stages in the UDC V8 utes, the originals. What a battle they're having. You'd think it was for the World Championships. It's actually for 7th and 8th spot.
There you go, red flag.
Red flag, so there's trouble on the circuit somewhere as Peter Ward goes under the red flag. Well, this is incredible. We've just heard from race control that the race has been stopped, and the reason it's been stopped is the gale force winds here at Taupo. So have a look at the pictures. A dangerous situation. The utes are stopped. Good news for Chris Walton, though. He extends his lead in the championship.
Well, it's fair to say, Chris, that the competition is struggling to stop you, but the elements have managed to do it here in Taupo.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've never had a race stoppage with the lights that are going to fall down out there on the track with the wind we got. But no, the car was great. The boys put an awesome job in getting that car ready. The multi-speed ute was great all weekend. Yeah, and again, just like to thank them. Without their support, we wouldn't be here.
And you've not just beat the Kiwis this time, but a bunch of new Aussies as well.
Yeah, that's right. We had another Mason come over here to have a go too. So and Chris Berry had to run this round. So it was good to get them on the grid, and yeah, they went pretty well. So yeah, it's good to have some more with us here.
Not bad for a fella who's been shivering all weekend with the cold. I'll just reach into my pocket and grab you this. You've had one of these before. There you go. From Motorspecs Champion, you're the Sunday champion yet again. Put that in your pocket if you can. I know you got a big wallet now with all of these.
Yeah, I haven't seen one yet.
He would say that. Hey, good luck for the next round, and you'll be watching too. Hampton Downs here on 3.